Welcome to 10 for 10, voting vision, not division. I'm George Mason, and I'm joined by my colleagues, Mara Richards Bim and Rabbi Nancy Kasten. We are Faith Commons, and we're doing this series of 10 episodes on 10 topics pertinent to the election coming up in November. We are trying to say that faith has an impact on our voting and actually should. But how does it have an impact on our voting? And how does it help us shape our views about certain topics that will then translate into public policy? In this episode, we're talking about the family, and Mara is leading us.
Yeah, thank you, George. So the family and family values, and I put that in quotes, has kind of a loaded meaning for us these days, but that hasn't always been the case. I think it's important to note that what is traditionally today called the traditional family is nowhere in the Bible, right? As a Christian, we obviously look to Jesus, who nowhere in the Gospels are we told that he's married. He seems to be a single man. Around him, we see in the Gospel of Matthew, we know that Jesus healed Peter's mother-in-law, which implies that Peter is married, but there's no mention of children. We know that Mary the Magdalene, which in Aramaic is Mary the Toweress, was a woman of her own financial means. She was not tied to a man. She was, I guess, the proverbial cat lady of her day. And she was present, as all the Gospels attest to, at Jesus' resurrection. We see in the book of Acts different family formations. We see Priscilla and Aquila.
There it is.
We see Priscilla and Aquila traveling together as a pair, working alongside Paul. Again, no mention of children. We see Paul himself, a single man, speaking to the fact that people should, if they are able to, remain celibate, which is not without having sex. It is instead a singleness, so that one can devote oneself to the larger family of the time. So we also see Jesus talking about, this expanded idea of family. In a couple of places in the Gospels, he refers, he's being asked about his mother and siblings, and he said, well, you are my mother and siblings. We see Paul constantly writing about my brothers and sisters in Christ. So there are all kinds of ideas about what family units might look like. We also see women like Lydia in the book of Acts, who is her own, she's in charge of her own household. There is no man. She's in charge of a household church. So all of these tell us that families were configured in very, very different ways in Jesus' time. And not to say that what we would consider today, or what we hear as the traditional family unit, wasn't important in Jesus' day. Jesus, obviously, one of the famous quotes, telling the little children, come unto me, right? But I think that when we think about family and family values in particular, what the New Testament shows us is that this idea of family is really expanded. It is not just, as current definitions, a man and a woman in a heterosexual marriage. First marriage, by the way, would be the traditional family, and with children that they birthed on their own. That's just not the majority of Americans, and it's not what we see in the Bible. So as we think about policies that relate to family, we should really embrace this idea that all families are sacred, all families have worth, all families deserve love, care, and support.
When we think about what is the purpose of family, right? If you go backwards and say, not what does an ideal family look like, but why do we need family? Why do we have family? And you think about, we need family for financial security and backing. We need family to protect us from outside forces. And that has never been the role of just the people you're biologically related to, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've seen so many other cultures other than our own here in the United States where community
Mm-hmm.
is reinforced because we know we can't provide everything for ourselves. And so when we talk about how to provide that, you know, you look at, I always think about Jacob and his wives and the 12 tribes of Israel, right? 4 wives, 12 children. And I always thought that wasn't necessarily a bad model, having raised 3 of my own children. You know, we need help. We need other people to help us, and we also need financial help. And so when we look at policies that our government can enact in order to, if we really care about strong families, if we care about supporting families, if we care about helping our workforce get what they need so that they can be maximizing their productivity at work and also being, you know, taking care of the children and the families that they have at home. Parents, not just children, right? We're living in multi-generational households now. Those are social policies that are very, very important. So, for example, child tax credits. Those have been so instrumental in helping families be able to work and still put food on the table and still help their kids with the needs that they have. You know, childcare support. We really need more childcare support in this country. We need to pay our childcare workers so that we can have that support. Paid leave. We're one of the only countries, and certainly the most wealthy country, that forces parents to pay the medical costs for childbearing and then lose earnings when they have children because they aren't getting paid family leave. So if we're really serious about being pro-family in the United States of America, we have to look beyond, you know, somebody's idea of what an ideal family is, which, you know, Anna Karenina, Tolstoy said it best, right? These families are flawed. Families are not perfect. And we all have different ideas about what a perfect family would be. So we really need to think about the kinds of public policy that will enable us to have strong families in light of the culture, the society, and the economy that we currently have here in the United States.
Well, I think you hear that this subject, as others that we've already talked about, is not just about social science. It's not just about politics even. It has to do with how faith envisions the world and how we order life together, how we live together. And honestly, that's what politics is about, a decision about how we will live together as neighbors, how we will sacrifice for one another. And this idea of family being supported in a larger neighborhood, community, and through the decisions we make about our tax dollars and their distribution and public policy are important ways in which our vision of faith can come to reality in our larger lives. So,
George, I just want to say one other thing because, you know, it is people of faith who are making the claim that they need to see families be a certain way. When we look at the people who separated families at the border, who did not make sure that those families could be reunited once whatever threat they feared was alleviated, you know, let's talk about what our faith really does call us to do, right? I mean, if we're separating families, no matter who they are, then we cannot claim to be a society that is pro-family.
well, as you can tell, we just scratched the surface of these conversations. And it's really hard for us not to interrupt each other or to come back and add. And we'd love to do this for an hour or two, but we're giving you 10 minutes and we'll have other subjects to come. So stay tuned with us as we continue this 10 for 10 series Thank you for joining us on Faith Commons. We'll see you next time.